Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. My name is Johnny Chaudhary at Barona. Work for Barona IT, which is one of the Nordic leading companies when it comes to resourcing and recruitment. We are currently in 10 different countries. We have our head office is in Helsinki, but also in Sweden. And we're working within IT, finding developers, project managers, and we know it's a bit of a struggle. So that's a little bit about myself. The presentation is together with my guest here, Caroline Eriksson at Tobii. She will present herself shortly, and it will be about cross-border recruitment. As we know, there's a lack of about 750,000 IT specialists within the European Union until 2020. And how will we manage to fill the positions and actually recruit the competencies that we need? One way of doing so is cross-border recruitment. We need to be more open. And Caroline and Tobii have been very good at it, actually. And I think you mentioned at one point that you have about 50 nationalities in Stockholm alone.
Yeah.
So it'll be very, very interesting to hear more about you and how you tackle the issue with competencies, and especially from a cultural point of view.
Yeah.
Good. I will leave it to you. So Caroline will present herself. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, my name is Caroline, and as Johnny said here, I'm working with recruitment, and mainly actually the technical recruitments for the R&D departments in Tobii. Tobii is a company that is founded 2001, and what we do is that we develop eye tracking technology. And what do we do that for? We do that for 3 different markets. One is for people that haven't really got the blessing of actually be able to speak in that sense. So we help people to communicate through the technology of eye tracking, and the people can actually then talk while looking at a screen. We do also develop eye tracking when it comes to the consumer market. So you can, for instance, control a computer with your eyes while playing games and so on. And we do also develop eye tracking for research and trying to understand human behavior and where you actually put your attention to. And that's what we do. And as we are a big player in technical aspects and so on, yes, we are very much in need of hiring people from abroad, because here in Sweden and Stockholm, we do not really have enough of competencies at this moment. So I would share our story and my story from this. And I can just tell you, when I started at Tobii here 3 years ago, I had no experience in recruiting from abroad. And Tobii had done some recruiting from abroad, but we definitely we have recruited a lot more people from abroad during these last years. So that's probably when we have learned all of this we're going to share with you. So I will start with just to talk about some myths that we actually have and what many people think about when they want to recruit from abroad. Some of the parts is that a lot of people only think about the problems. I mean, the thing is that a lot of people think that is, for instance, it's very hard to compare salaries with people in Sweden versus different countries, and other benefits, of course. A lot of people think that it's expensive to recruit from abroad, a very common issue and what we hear, and also that a lot of companies think that these procedures takes a lot of time. From my perspective, that's a myth, and all of these are myths. I will go through them later why. But it's important to know that everything that you've heard about recruitment from abroad might not be the truth. It might be easier than you think. So I want to share our story about what we did and how we do it. And as I said, get some tips and tricks, give you some tips and tricks about how to solve your recruitment problems. This is my setup. This is my agenda. First of all, I want to share with you guys a little bit more about why we actually did start to recruit from abroad. I want to also talk a little bit more about culture fit, culture non-fit, and how we actually have managed to survive at a company with all of these different cultures. I mean, we have different backgrounds, and we need to work with that. Is there an issue, or is it not? I also want to talk about our responsibilities as an employer in this sense, and where we would put the actual limit of responsibility. I don't think that everything is on the employer in this sense. I will tell you more about that. But definitely we need to think about that we are bringing people from abroad to a new country, and that comes with promises from our side. I also want to share some tips and tricks, as I said, and also very much regarding what to put on your agenda before deciding to hire from abroad, what you need to think about. I will also talk even more about the myths I said, but definitely also a little bit deep dive into the diversity at Tobii today, and if I think that we support diversity today. It's a big question, but I will try to make it short. So we start with the foundation. Tobii, as I said, we're founded 2001 and founded about 3 persons in the cellar trying to build something amazing, which they did definitely, and we pretty fast became market leaders, which is a pretty big challenge to handle. We are now 3 business units, as I said, and in less than a year ago, we actually were around 500 people globally. Then we were 200 persons here in Stockholm. Now we are over 1,000 people globally, and here at Stockholm, close to 500 people. So we have grown very much, and thanks to both recruitment from Sweden, but definitely also from recruitments from abroad. So what lit the fire? Yeah, small guys trying to grow up. I think that was the thing, and we were forced to actually go outside of the Swedish boundaries. So what we saw then, else that we needed to grow, was that of course the tech scene was growing, and it still does. We definitely need to point that out. It still does. It ain't over yet. So, and we had difficulties in showing Tobii as a very interesting company in this mass of very cool tech companies. New offices popped up everywhere, and big brands, Google came, Apple came. It was crazy. And here we were, small Tobii, nobody knew of us, more or less. We were fighting for the same people as everybody else. C++, C# developers, .NET domain, everybody wanted them and everybody haunted them. And who wants to be that nagging recruiter also? I mean, yes, you can call once or twice, but then you've kind of lost your case. So we needed to go bigger. We were also looking for a very specific competence. one, yes, we looked for these software developers that everybody looked for, but we also looked for very, very senior people in optronics and machine learning and so on. And they did not really exist at the market here in Sweden. So we fought a very, very, very long time to actually try to find these people, and we've built an amazing network, which we soon hope will come back to us after these years in Sweden. But we just realized that we were forced to actually lift the scope, move from Sweden, and move out of the boundaries of Europe even, because there were, of course, a lot more companies that also have moved out from the Swedish boundaries. I will not go exactly into how we did it. I mean, that's a whole other talk. But I can say that it was very much about survival mode. We needed to grow, and that was fast. So what did we do? We just started to contact people all around the world, more or less. And before I go into more about the tips and tricks and so on, I just want to share something more that it is very important for us to think about when we hire from abroad. And it's the culture part. I mean, culture, as in this aspect, we are different. We have different normal personalities, what's inside of us. We think different, we behave different, and so, and it's in our nature that we are different, right? And we, in our DNA, that's one thing, but then we also have so much else. It's the environment that shapes us, right? And that's also one thing that we need to think about when we hire from abroad. So on top of the actual growth survival mode, we need to hire more people. We also need to think about that these people have different DNAs, have come from different cultures, and maybe want different things, communicate in different ways. Yes. So let's start with the difference. I mean, there are a lot of differences. It could be, for instance, religion, of course, a very, very big difference. Maybe you do not really talk about that in the first meeting, and maybe you do not ever have to talk about it, but still, it is a difference. And some religions do definitely have another cultural aspect, and some have others. And we need to really be prepared that everything is okay, everything is perfectly fine, and we are open for everybody. One other part is, of course, the language. Yeah, cannot really say more about that. But here, we have really fought with trying to speak only English. It's hard.
But do you have all those languages here that we see on the picture?
I wouldn't, maybe.
Yeah.
I do not really understand all of them, but we have a lot of different languages. Yes, we have actually talked about creating some language cafes and so on. Wow. Also. Yeah, because I mean, if we have people that speak Italian and people that speak Indian and people can learn from each other, I really would love to.
Such an amazing initiative for language and knowledge sharing, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And that's also, I mean, what here we stand very much on the ground knowledge sharing when it comes to the technical skills. But we've just realized, I told you before that we, for instance, talk about having cooking classes also. Yeah. That's also one thing. Learn to cook from each other. That's all of the pluses. Yeah. It's so many. Yeah. And then also we have gender, of course. I mean, that's also one thing. It's a big topic, and I cannot really go into it, but because I do not really understand all of it. But it's also difference, yes, and how we look like, skin tone, definitely, clothes, definitely can also be put into culture and so on. But that's also one thing. But that I mean, those four here are the ones that we actually can perceive pretty fast. But then also we have the other parts, which is very, very, very much cultural. We talked about food here before, but also about family, how important is the family for these people, for this person, for you, for I, the social approach, how are we used to behave in social circumstances, the cultural approach also goes into that, and the psychosocial, what have we actually experienced from before. It is important to really try to put yourself in a situation where you move from one country to a country where it's totally different, totally different. And it's super hard. I mean, I've been living in Sweden for all my life. I know nothing. But it gets even better when you start hiring from abroad, because suddenly you have a lot of people that can help each other and talk with each other, which that's amazing. That's also something that we see here now, that it creates small clusters of people that has been through the same journey, and that's amazing.
Really amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
And so and why I say this, I mean, it's super important because we need to think about how can we support the person that we are hiring. We need to, as managers, as HR, we need to support these people that they actually are comfortable in our workspace, so they understand about how Sweden is like. And we need to, if we want to, but it's very important to understand the differences from the beginning.
And also, I think a lot of people, we may have a sort of pre-assumption that they may not like it is cold, the weather, right?
Yeah.
But actually, there are also a lot of people who really want this and love this environment.
Yes. It is, and it's also, I think those assumption in that sense. I always start with that. But do you know more about Sweden and da 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 da? And people are like, yes, I know about snow. I so much want to, or not all of them, but a lot of people. I really want to move to Finland, Sweden, or Norway, because it's beautiful, it snows, and then I need to say that, but we do not have snow all the time. No. So it's vice versa in that sense. Exactly. But as you said, it's super important there also, because we also assume that people in other countries live and act in one way, but we do not know. So it's important to have that open, free to ask questions, and also, my biggest meaning here is that it's of course very important that we have assumptions, and we want to know what is important for this particular position. So, but we go back to survival mode, because everything goes back to employee branding. I need to say that. I mean, HR working with employee branding, we want to build brand ambassadors. What if we bring a person to Sweden, to our company, and it doesn't work?
Yeah,
that would not be a good brand ambassador.
No, absolutely not.
And that's also, we need to create something. I talked about that before with the EVP and what we actually create our promise. I would say it's even more important in this sense, because somebody is jumping a very big jump here, and we need to deliver on what we promise. So that goes into responsibility. And here it is important to really think about, you are taking this new person with her family into a new country. Maybe they have no cultural experience at all. Is that responsibility on you as an employer, or as a person, or is it something that is also on the employer in that sense? As I said, I have no clue about how it is to move to a new country and start work with new stuff, new people in another language. But still, it's very important to think about the responsibility in this case, and think about what you are promising them So either you can choose on being actually the safety net in every issue, or you can just take them here, get working, and then you leave them. I mean, and all the scales in between here. But it's a lot of areas when you recruit from abroad that actually differs when they are here. So one part is of course the actual move. To come here, people need to move here. Yes, and I just listed a couple of things I just thought about that actually we need to decide on. Will we pay for this? Will we? What will we answer if this comes up? Once a bit again, get back to if you would move to another country, what would you think about? What would your first this and this and that? What would that be that you actually wanted to ask about? So outside of talking the weather and if they like snow or not, what are you able to actually help this person with? Flight tickets, I just wrote that because that's such a basic thing. Some companies pay for it, some companies does not, because there can be a lot of flights back and forward. Also, flying here to taking the first interview, flying back to I don't know, get the
and then
first.
to start the whole process to come here, you probably need to move back to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And it's a lot of different things. So think about the difference, what you're able here to actually give and what you don't, because that's a very important answer for these people. Can I bring my family?
No, it's correct what you say, because you need to kind of figure out what are you ready to accommodate.
Yeah.
And make it clear internally first.
Yes.
Before making any kind of promises or taking the dialogue further.
Yeah.
And have some sort of okay, so this is what we can provide, what we are able to.
Yeah.
And also maybe something you touched upon, I believe previously, is also not overpromise. Is also something.
Yeah. Super important.
That whoever is moving here also is kind of 50% responsible.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
To make it work and want it to work.
Yes.
And if he has family to bring that he wants to bring along, also has a responsibility of saying, okay, what can we do? What about my spouse?
Exactly. Because that's actually your spouse. Good that you mentioned that, because that's actually a very, very common question. Because also here, a lot of spouses and a lot of cultures and companies doesn't work.
Yeah.
So they often, when the family comes here, they do realize that, but we need two salaries to actually support ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's something also. How is family? I mean, how is what's their expectations? What they take with them in that sense.
Exactly.
So in here you can also decide: can you help their partner to find a job? Can you help their partner to find other plus ones, as we call them, so they also have some kind of community to hang out with?
Yeah.
Because the first very dangerous part here is actually, and why people move back, is because of their family and their partners, that they do not really settle in this. A big responsibility. And also, of course, the language barriers. I need to also emphasize that, because you need to think about, do you have a company that actually supports English? And is your colleagues and the employees at your organization, are they really comfortable in speaking English? That's also one thing. We need to, from my point of view, I think that every company in this country should definitely speak English. I don't know why we aren't, because some aren't, but it's super important. And then also about work visa, of course, and everything around that. It's also costs connected to living in Sweden and working in Sweden and so on. Yeah. And also, of course, yeah, you need to decide. You
Yeah.
need to decide where do you actually put your responsibilities in this and prepare to answer these questions.
Yeah.
There are a lot more. This is just a small one. So with this and the cultural aspects as behind this, I want to share some tips and tricks to you about this. And first of all, I think it's important for you as a company to just before you start to hire, try to think about the goods, the preparations, and the possible bads. And think about that before you start to hire. So the tips and tricks in that sense starts with the actual costs. Talked about that before. That the cost itself is often a very big issue, or people talk a lot about cost in this sense, but just count on it. I mean, how much are you paying today for your hires? And for the particular for the competency that you want to hire, and for the ones that you have difficulties in hire, read and learn about the positive parts of a diversity and a cultural diversity in the workplace. I've read that the culture diverse does have a very does increase the productivity. It increase the creativity, the profits, and so on and so on. Read about that also and share that with your organization, because other people might want to read that also as preparing to becoming even more cultural diverse. I love SWOTs. just write up everything. Think about what you are worried about. Think about what is your benefits from this, and just have it all on a board and discuss about it. Cover the most you can. Read about the visa processes. It is not that hard as we think at all. It is not. Read about it, feel more if you would be able to actually support a person in this. Plan for as much responsibility that you actually are willing to give in this sense. Do not overpromise, as you said, John. Do not overpromise, because that's when you do not create brand ambassadors, right? Family thing, I said that also. It's important to think about the families. A lot of people are moving to Sweden because of that. This is a good country to have a family in, with schools and with hospitals and
childcare and all these things.
Everything. So read more about that, and read and think about how would you help the plus ones in this. And yeah, get rid of the Swedish because you need to. It is important to welcome people in a language that they actually understand.
Can I ask you, from beginning, you were obviously the Swedish company.
Yeah.
It was only Swedish.
Yeah.
So at some point you decided, well, from now on, we will have English as a concern language.
Yeah.
How did that take place, and how was that transformation? And has it been easy or painful?
I do not really know the actual transformation in that sense, but I know it is often. Yet today, it's painful in that sense, where you feel that, oh, now we're talking Swedish and there's somebody here around the table that doesn't understand, and you're like, English, please. So I think it more turned into that pretty organically. But right now, definitely we all the new material we produce
in English.
Yeah. Okay, so one other thing I want to raise in this part is this part about engaging in networks that helps people to actually grow into the Swedish culture and open up for people from abroad. It's very important also. It is needed lots of money into that, and it's needed a lot of engagement, and it's important that you also help. We want to be a globally attractive company and a country, and that does not really make it by itself. So that was before, so you needed to think about, and this is when you actually start to hire. Now we're there, we're starting, we have decided that, yep, we're going to hire from abroad. Make sure, I go back to English again, and I go back to diversity. Make sure that your language and your ads and everything that you talk about is screaming diversity. You do not want it to actually be seen as you are the Swedish company with only Swedish people that only speak Swedish. If it is so, then right, that we are a Swedish company with only Swedish people, but we would love to bring in other people here. We're open for it. Let's start.
We want to change. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We want to change. And also about pictures and so on. Super important. You need to post every ad on Arbetsförmedlingen. It's a must, or else you will not be able to apply for a visa for this person. Super important. Prepare employees pretty much says it all, but everybody must be at least aiming towards this, that you will be more of a diverse, culture diverse company. My definitely tip is to interview on site, and also the apartments. It's hard to find apartments, right?
Yeah.
Ask colleagues. People do always know about apartments. Go back down to the build brand as ambassadors. Everything is about promises, right? So about the actual myths then. We will round up with that. So the myths is that hiring from abroad takes time. It's expensive. Salaries aren't comparable. I said that in the beginning, and that different company cultures also is very hard to bridge. Could be, it could be definitely, but also that visa processes take a long time. And I would say that the first one, that it takes time. If you just think about a regular recruitment, maybe we put in search because it's a very, very hard competence to find. 3 months of notice plus that, then we're maybe 4 months maybe before we actually have this person on board, and that's a very, very positive number.
And also, I think that the latest news from Almega is that within 1 month. Yeah. So when it comes to IT, there's some sort of fast track, and they finally realized that we need to kind of speed up the process. So this is the news that come from Almega only like a month ago.
It's amazing.
So a couple of weeks ago, and something that Migrationsverket is working on.
Yeah.
Which then means within a month. Fine, you have to think about the accommodation, all these things, which still means within 3 months.
Yeah.
And that's the same time it takes.
It is. And I mean, I know I've heard that the most difficult visa processes maybe take max 3 months, but then you have that person more or less on the day.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't really take time. Expensive. Once again, think about that hiring cost when you actually search for people that you search for. I mean, a visa, I think an application is around 2,000 Swedish kroners, and also that maybe if we think very big, a flight to Sweden, 20,000 kroners. That's not that much.
No.
Salaries, of course, they are comparable. There's a lot. Just Google. I mean, there's a lot of very, very smart links where you can just compare how it is to live in Ukraine versus Sweden, how it is to India, live in India versus, and where you can find out.
The purchasing power and all these things.
Yeah.
And actually, what is the real salary then?
Exactly. And also, I mean, a cost on a milk.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also compare that. So
if you compare, I mean, in the US, for example, you can argue that yes, salaries are much
yes.
higher, but then you have to pay for school,
Yeah.
you have to pay for childcare,
Yeah.
For doctor's appointment, etc. So if you take all of these factors into consideration, I don't think there's a big difference at all.
No, it isn't.
It could be, in the contrary, it's actually better here.
It is, and just this thing that we need to know what we offer, because I mean, I didn't know before I started. I didn't know what taxes and everything. I didn't know what we actually paid for and how many percentage. But when we know, we can actually compare.
Yeah.
And as I said, visa processes does not take time. And if you're hiring from Europe, it's as easy as hiring in Sweden. Also important to know.
Yeah.
So final, very quick here. Do we support diversity today? Somewhat, yes. I mean, at Tobii, we try. We will never be done, never. And it's so fun when new people get into the company that we always get new information about how we could support diversity. People have been so helpful in shaping this. People do really want to help to actually build a better company together, which is amazing. We have 50 different nationalities today at the office, as I said before, and we have learned a lot that, I mean, independently from where you are at, everybody can meet in a game, in a cooking class, or in a language course. I mean, there are a lots of ways where we can connect these people.
Now, I realized that when I just walked into the office here, and we were having a chat by the coffee machine. It was English there. You had some American colleagues coming over, guests. So kind of, you really can feel the atmosphere and the diversity in the atmosphere. So it is actually pretty cool.
It is, and I mean, we have the lucky side of this, that we actually love sharing knowledge. Also, we love this, and I think that is a must to make people feel comfortable in this. So if you want to find out more about this, we actually have some Tobians sharing their stories at our website, and we will also soon actually put up more of storytelling from people that have moved here. So you can follow how they actually how they felt coming to Tobii. So
Good.
I think that was about it.
Yeah. Great. Really good to hear your story, and more about Tobii and how you work. And what I also found really interesting is, you mentioned about language courses, so maybe even SFI and things like that, for people who want to learn Swedish. They can actually get support from you, from colleagues.
We actually have on Tuesdays, we have Swedish classes during office hours here. So people, if they want to, I mean, it's not a must have Swedish at the office, but if they want to, they can learn Swedish during office hours. And that's mainly the thing that we do now, the language cafes and different cooking classes. So there's more. Now we can do that because we have a lot of different cultures here, but that's for the future.
And I think it's great. Because it's also something also we live by at Barona, is taking society to a better future. And one way of doing that, well, is to identify the benefit of the society. And that means, okay, so helping out. So these new colleagues, they will have it easier to learn the Swedish language and integrate better. And be part of Tobii and part of Sweden. And also a big plus. So what we have discussed here also is about international recruitment and the culture aspect of it. but also one way of looking at it is from a society, from the benefit point of view, is the fact that just headhunting here in Stockholm, it has just become crazy, and probably you can agree to that.
Yeah.
And what it does is driving up salaries, and it's you can argue that maybe long term it's actually not a good solution at all.
I think so. And just welcome people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how we learn new stuff, and
Yeah.
not staying in some kind of boring industrial Swedish iron
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Welcome people.
Welcome people. Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's great, Caroline. I think we learned a lot. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to work more international, and as you said, try to welcome. And I think what people probably will realize is the fact that welcome, and also if you're not so diverse already, because there are a lot of companies, there are Swedish people and operates here, but they want to become more open. Well, in that case, communicate it.
Communicate it, and exactly tell people that we aren't here right now, but we want to be. You will be the first person that is not a Swede, but you will be celebrated for that.
Exactly. Well, good. Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
And as Caroline mentioned, feel free to visit the website. There will be some more material there, and connect to us. And Caroline, if you want to know more about this,
Yes.
and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.